Okay, let's start. I will say ahead of it, I thought I have a challenging session just after lunch, but then there were people giving talks during lunch, and there were people giving talks while people were eating, and you could hear all the silverware, so I shouldn't complain. At the same time, I did change my slides a little bit last night because I wanted to be more energetic and more interactive with you. So if I missed some of the slides, bear with me. I apologize for that. So a little bit about me, born and raised in Israel. I moved here 8 years ago, summer 2016. Moved to Boston, and everyone said, wait for the next winter. Since then, it doesn't happen. Have 3 kids, wife, used to have 3 dogs until recently, so I had to update this slide a few months ago. And yeah, let's start, but I would want to have a contract here with you guys. I know how scary it is to get on talk of a founder. I'm not going to pitch Mob, promise that, right? If I, at some point, talk too much about Mob, just boo. Okay, let's practice this now. I want to hear a strong boo. Stronger. Okay, if that happens, I will, be back on track. This talk is about journey that we had at Mob building our automatic remediation. So we learned a lot about it, and I want to share it here. But it's not about, if you care about it later, if you are interested, there are the questions, you can come to me later, and that will be great. I will give you a quote. But let's start. So the agenda. We're going to talk about the problem that we were trying to solve. Okay? The goal that we were trying to achieve. So there are the problem, there are the goal. It's not exactly the same. And then we were trying to do it with AI, of course. So I'll give some steps, some guidance on how not to use GenAI for security today. In the how to maybe, things that somewhat work. A completely different approach, as if we were back in the 90s, or at least 2022, early days, without AI. And the approach that we took at the end with the hybrid approach. And then to summarize. So before I start, just to level set the room, any developers in the room with the raise of hands? Okay. Security? Anyone that didn't raise his hand before? Why are you here? Any CISOs in the room? Okay, we'll talk later. So this one, I guess everyone knows, right? The infinity DevOps loop. This made sense for businesses, right? It allows businesses to run faster. It allows businesses to make more money. Then us security folks came in and said, no, we forgot something. It needs to be DevSecOps. And I was a vendor for many years, and we persuaded the market, yes, DevSecOps, shift left, do all that. And it works. Now, in my opinion, in most cases, it doesn't. And the reason is, when you think about DevSecOps, for me, the way I read it, it was supposed to be, let's release secure software in the speed of DevOps. DevSecOps usually breaks that model where you introduce security into the pipeline, and then you either address those findings and you slow down your process, or you don't address your findings and you're not releasing secure software in the speed of DevOps. Tanya was here in the morning giving a keynote, and she mentioned of a scan that had 34,000 findings, I think? 43,000 findings, yeah. I heard actually bigger numbers sometimes. Anyone saw a scan, static analysis scan with more than 40,000 findings? More than 100,000 findings? More than 300,000 findings? Okay, so there are those things. Now, why? It's not because people are not scanning, by the way. Some of them scan and just accumulate more and more findings to their backlog. So the scan doesn't get smaller, they just get larger. Did you ever think about why? So we have a few developers here in the room. The thing is that solving security is hard. It's not easy. Finding it is easier than solving those problems, and solving takes time. So we're in a situation where the more mature you are with your AppSec program, your security backlog is larger. If you're a small company, you will have 1,000, 1,000 plus. Bigger, 10,000s. There are companies, probably in this room also, with over 1 million vulnerabilities in their backlog. If you go and sit with your AppSec team, start with them, and try to figure out, well, we all know SaaS is notorious to have a lot of false positives. What is a false positive? Can be good code that is called out, but in most cases it's bad code that is not exploitable, and the dev team don't want to fix it because it takes a lot of time. Triaging, figuring out if something needs to be fixed or not, takes time. It can take an hour. I was shocked. I was on the vendor side, never a practitioner. I thought, oh, you look at the code, it's easy. No, you need to understand all the microservices, how they are connected. And that takes time. So it's an hour just to triage. And then 5 hours on average to fix. Average is for average developers. Google had research paper about automatic remediation, and they are saying that for the Google developer, it takes an average of 2 hours to fix a vulnerability. No disrespect for the developers in your organizations, but Google developers are usually here. Most developers are here 5 times. So let's do a quick math. 6 hours per vulnerability. 1,000 vulnerabilities, 6,000 hours. 3 developers for a full year. That's why you have a backlog. And that's the problem that we were trying to solve. How to allow companies to move faster and secure. So what is the goal? We were focusing on first-party code remediation. So the goal is to automatically fix first-party code. Why we want to do it? We want to allow developers to get rid of all that pain of addressing security vulnerabilities and be able to move with features fast. By the way, just to make sure, I will say something that may shock some of you. Businesses don't go out of business because of security breach. You are not the most important person in the room. Someone said that before in another talk that I was. Businesses go out of businesses because they cease to compete. If security slows down businesses, security hurts the business. Yes, I don't want your businesses to have security breach. I'm pretty tired of getting that letter in the mail. Your information was part of a data breach. You have an insurance for a year. I don't want that. But we still need to release things fast. We need to be secure, right? PCI 4 had something really interesting. Now PCI 4 will be mandated at the end of March of next year. It says, low and medium severity vulnerabilities can still harm your business, so you need to address them. Huge change. If your organization doesn't fix lows and mediums because? Yeah, doesn't work anymore. The auditor will nail you on that.
You don't get appreciated for fixing them.
Yeah, and you have a lot of those because you had the 180 days SLA for them 2 years ago, and just more came. We wanted to minimize the mean time to remediate, right between the time something was discovered until it was fixed, and we want to be able to fix at scale. Because of the previous slide, we know organizations already have huge mountains of vulnerabilities, and we shouldn't ignore them. Yes, on the maturity model of AppSec, you start with stop the bleeding. But you can't ignore the fact that you have thousands of SQL injections from before. And it's scary. Your banks, your internet providers, your cellular providers, they have thousands of high severity vulnerabilities. And they have your information, by the way. So how we are going to measure this session, we are focusing on the things that are measurable. Can a solution minimize the mean time to remediate, and can it fix at scale? And because the title says AI, we are going to try to use AI. A little check on age. Who knows this character? Yes. Thank you. OK. So let's start. I'm skipping some of the parts of what we do. Basically, as a short story just before that, we started in September 22. Yeah, I know. That was on purpose. I did this, and then I did this. So you can focus. All eyes on me. We started on September 22nd to build this automatic remediation. And then end of November 2022, what happened? ChatGPT came to life. And I was nervous, and I grouped all our company, 5 people, all of us. And I said, guys, take a look at this. Do we have a business? Or do we have something to work with? We were working with ChatGPT 3, 3.5, 4. I will mention them later, and AI in general. What we learn is it matters how you prompt. There are rooms to sit. I actually love the fact that it's packed and people are standing, but you can come closer and sit. So what we learn is that there is, if you prompt better, and I'm sure everyone knows, better chances to get results. So for fixing vulnerabilities, we start with, I have a problem. I have this kind of problem, an XSS vulnerability in the following JavaScript code. You don't want the AI to guess, because it will guess. It will try, even if it doesn't have the information. Then you give the code, and you tell it the vulnerability is in line, blah, fix it. OK, so here's an example of cross-site scripting. sending it to ChatGPT. And everything, by the way, is on version 4. Some of it is 4.0. When I had time, I updated the slides. But this is new, right? And AI did great. The vulnerability in the code, it created an element and did the text content, and the problem is gone. So we can go home. We have a solution. We can use ChatGPT. Great. No. So let's look at another code example, right? We're doing a proper research. So we're trying more. And this is another type of XSS, right? And we're doing the exact same prompt. I have an XSS vulnerabilities in the following JavaScript code. And now we have here the code, and we are saying the vulnerability is in this line. Fix it. Let's see what happens. So the difference here is that for some reason, everyone ever had in their life using ChatGPT or another AI, and the AI told them, I don't know the answer? No. It always tries to help, and it will help more than you're asking, right? So, for example, in this case, for some reason, the ChatGPT decided that if we have parameter in the URL, in the address line, there is a parameter URL. I never said that. It wasn't in the code. But let's put that aside. This is more interesting. Validate URL. This is how it validates. It has a constructor of safe URL, and that's it. So I was scratching my head. Maybe that's a cool new sanitizer that we should try. Well, guess what? It doesn't work. And we added the URL because chat said that we need to have a URL. We didn't have that before, but we went with it. So what happened here? First step, right? First of all, ChatGPT broke our application. It introduced a parameter that we never thought about because chat thought about it. Second thing, I don't know which one is worse. I think this is worse. But the second thing, it actually didn't fix the problem. So at that point, we were actually more relaxed. We still have business. We don't need to rush. As chat grew from 3 to 3.5 to 4, we had repetitive research that we did. We actually wrote a paper, not we, one of my employees. And we took 2 known applications, WebGoat and Juice Shop. We scanned them with 2 commercial SaaS findings, 2 commercial SaaS tools, and we fed it to AI with the prompts like I mentioned here and said, hey, fix this. And here's the results. 29% of the fixes were good. Good doesn't mean following best practice. It means that it solved the problem. Not following best practice means there is higher likelihood that SaaS tool will not respect that fix later, but still, it solved the problem. So let's take the wins. Then we had 19% that didn't ruin the logic. Some of them introduced new vulnerabilities, like we had a case where you had command injection and the fix introduced NoSQL injection, but it didn't break the code. It only partially fixed the problem sometimes. This is not the worst. The worst was actually that 52% were just bad. It was not fixing the issue. It introduced broken code. It was fixing things in the wrong place. It asked for code in the comments. So here's, you need to have sanitized domain, and then you go down the page and you have sanitized domain, comment, implement sanitizer here. Stuff like that, which is cool. But then we have the nicest thing. It just deletes part of the code. Here is a vulnerability. No vulnerability. We just deleted it. Someone mentioned earlier, I think, I think it was Abraham on the other talk, that the South Korean country had vulnerabilities in their mobile app where people could just bypass the authentication to see information. So they just removed the authentication and everyone could see it. That's also another option. Some more problems when you try to use AI. And by the way, the idea is to, if you want to build it on your own, I will try to give some guidance. More problems when you think about using AI to fix a 43,000 finding report. The context window of how much information you can give to the AI is small. It used to be small, now it's bigger, but it's expensive. So if you're trying to do that automatically with all the information, open your wallet. Parsing the LLM, we want to do it automatically, right? No one is going to prompt chat 43,000 times. So parsing the LLM, parsing a JSON is really bad. It's really hard. If we have time at the end, I will give you a bonus tip how we ended up using it. And counterproductive, but the larger the file you bring, the larger amount of information you give AI, most of them, there is a new competition now on the Google on Gemini, but most of them, the larger amount information you provide, the higher likelihood it will hallucinate, because it has more things to look at and try to solve. So you may say, hey, Eitan, you seem nice, you know how to talk, but you guys suck, your solution, you don't know how to use it. So now I'm going to shame us and also show that it's hard, and I'll show you examples from all sorts of tools. I wasn't able to get SameGraph fixes, so I didn't have a screenshot for that. But this is some of the things that we did in our solution before when we were using AI completely. So here's an example, right? There is a SQL injection here, and the fix is comment, prepared statement. Yeah, doesn't solve the problem. This is a cool one, actually. It's a good suggestion. There is an HTTP here, and you change it to HTTPS, but it has nothing to do with client hard-coded domain. So you can say, OK, Eitan, if you're the founder, probably your employees are not that. Let's look at other solution, right? And I try to mask the tools' names as much as I could. This is a cool one, right? There is a secret here. And the fix is replacing the secret with something else. I'm not doing it to shame people. I'm just saying AI. Here's another one. I mentioned that, right? Fixing SQL injection. Let's just remove. It actually solved the problem. There is no SQL injection now. And here it gets more tricky, right? Not all of it will be easy. So this is, I couldn't mask this one, everyone knows. GitHub Advanced Security came out with automatic remediation in August of this year. Amazing job. I'll talk about them later, maybe. But the idea here is the fix for missing rate limit, for some reason, decided to delete this line. Oh, thought it was, OK. The idea is that I want to make sure that it's not clear sometimes that AI does weird things. But here, this is a new screenshot that I have from a new tool that we are using. This is trying to fix, basically, instead of using standard sanitization, this tool decided, well, AI decided that it can come up with their own sanitization. And you have here replace all greater, lower than, greater than, ampersand, ampersand. I don't know why. It doesn't end here. You also need to know what you cannot fix. And some of the tools didn't think about that. So replacing weak encryption with a strong one. Great, right? You only did it in one component, one line of code. What about all the other components that are using the same encryption, and you just broke your application, and your developers are very happy with the new tool that you brought home to them? These are kind of easy. Let's look at something that is new. I tried that 2 days ago or last night. We have a customer. GitHub reported on for them inclusion functionality from untrusted source. Basically, they use jQuery. They need to check the integrity. They didn't do that. So I asked ChatGPT with 4.0 preview demo. I forgot how it's called. And it started really nice. It thought for 20 seconds, right? It gave details. It says the first thing you should do, if you can host your scripts locally, that's best. But I can't do that. So let's do integrity, right? Use SRI. And make sure that the script that you load is great. So looks very promising. Now let's see the suggestion. Suggestions, I took the second suggestion because, as I mentioned, I'm not going to host jQuery on my environment. And now I was looking at this. And it decided that there is no, the jQuery library that I'm using doesn't exist. So I thought, maybe? Oh, no, it does exist. OK, so if it's wrong here, maybe it's wrong somewhere else. So I went to look at the second thing, and I ran it on the SRI site, and it's not the same SHA that I got. So what I'm trying to say, it's not always going to be easy to see that the AI makes mistakes. Let's review the goals. Were we able to minimize the mean time to remediate? If you know what you're looking for, yes. But if you know what you're looking for, you don't need the AI for that. Can we use it at scale? Definitely not. OK, so at that point, we were trying to figure out, can I use GenAI to automatically fix massive number of findings reported? I had, for this, because it's after lunch, I had this music now of the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I can't run music now. So let's look at the lifelines that I have. I can't do 50-50 here, right? No option. I need to be sure. So we have two options. I have the crowd here, and I will ask you. And then if it doesn't work, I'll call someone. So what do you think? Can we use GenAI for this? To fix at scale, to automatically fix massive number of... Anyone think yes? Raise your hand.
I think it depends on
Don't be embarrassed. I mean, worst case, you're wrong. Okay.
I think it depends on the definition of fix.
That depends. I want to be able to take that 43,000 findings that they had and fix many of them, not all of them, automatically. Okay, so the audience don't think that we can do this, most of them. Now I'm going to do the fun stuff, and I will try. Can you give me your phone? I did it in OWASP, and people didn't believe me that I didn't record it, so I'm going to call his ChatGPT, and we'll ask ChatGPT on his phone.
I can trust you, right?
Yes, of course. So let's do this. Oh, I need to give approvals now.
Oh, no.
That's okay. Done. We're using Ember. You never use this? Last night I had a chat with my ChatGPT. Don't judge. I was alone. I had a chat. We will talk about it soon. Okay, so we're waiting for this to load. Maybe we need to do this. Can you hear me?
All right, sounds loud and clear. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. Wait. I will ask you soon a question. By the way, what is worse than doing live demo? ChatGPT live. Okay, are you ready? I'm asking you a question now. Can I use GenAI to automatically fix massive numbers of findings reported by traditional commercial off-the-shelf SaaS tools?
Yes, you can use GenAI to help address and fix issues reported by commercial off-the-shelf SaaS tools.
Keyword help. Help.
Are there any concerns, any risk here? Your internet sucks.
AT&T.
AT&T? There are people from AT&T here. Dude, are you still, Ember, are you still here? I think you have Ember. Okay, we are in bad reception. Oh, you don't have internet here. Dude, I'll take my T-Mobile, guys, sorry. We'll continue to try. All this is recorded, it's going to be funny later.
My phone is more secure now.
Yeah, of course it is. Sorry, we will need to repeat the same question again. Are you here? Come on, yeah. Can I use GenAI to automatically fix massive number of findings reported by traditional commercial off-the-shelf SaaS tools?
Yes, you can use GenAI to help remediate findings from my guidelines. Won't let me talk about that.
What? I don't know what I did now, but let's try it again. Can I use GenAI to automatically fix massive number of findings reported by traditional commercial off-the-shelf SaaS tools?
Yes, you can use GenAI to automatically fix a massive number of guidelines. Won't let me talk about it. Can I help you with something else?
Okay, so I didn't see that coming. That was not planned at all. When I did it in OWASP, it was funny because it said something that I didn't expect. Actually, 2 days before that, it said it. It said, yes, but there are concerns. One concern is false positives. SaaS tools are known to have a lot of false positives. I said, okay, that's interesting. So what? And what Chat told me is that if you give AI 43,000 findings and some of them are false positives, it will still fix it. And the fix will not be great. It can break your application, so it actually adds more work. Now, we got into a tangent there last night, and at a certain point, AI was sure of itself. It said, yes, we can fix. You need to have men in the loop to review the code. Great. I asked, what is the skill level of that developer needs to be to review the results? And they said, oh, it needs to be a senior developer, knows machine learnings, knows security, knows this and that. Great. How long on average it will take to review those findings? Between 15 minutes and an hour. Okay, great. If we have 1,000 vulnerabilities, how long it will take? At the end, we got to the 4 to 6 month review of 1,000 fixes. So at that point, okay, so we cannot use ChatGPT in a naive way. Let's go quicker because Chat stole a lot of my time. How to maybe use generative AI today with custom prompts. So we can't be very vague. We need to give a lot of information, but that needs to be per code pattern. You need to carefully pick the context, Okay, which code you want to give, because you don't want to give too much. As I mentioned earlier, where's my clicker? As I mentioned earlier, you want to give less in more in this case. People know what RAG is? Basically, the idea is that you give it information, and you give it more information and more until it gets all the context and knows how to solve it. It's not just GenAI on its own. And the idea is not to try to do it one prompt at a time. By the way, I will have the slides later, share on SlideShare or whatever if you want. Reach out to me. And make sure that what AI provides is not breaking the code and it compiles. So let's look at the example that we had before, right, where chat failed. And now we're doing a custom prompt. We're actually going to tell the AI how to fix the problem. And we are adding this. This is the line. In order to fix it, right, set the href attribute. I won't read it, guys. You have to validate the URL has HTTP or HTTPS protocol. If not, set the href to hashtag. How is it called in English? Sorry. Hashtag. Thank you. So it works, right? So that's great, right? We can use GenAI for that. Let's look at the problem with the custom prompts. The downside is you need to understand each code pattern because you need to tell it how to fix. And each code pattern can be different. So you need to understand if the code pattern is new before you can do that. It's a lot of work. It's doable, by the way. So the person in the back that raised his hand that said GenAI, you can use it. Yes, to a certain degree. If you're looking at can you scope down the problem so we won't give the AI too much information, and this is get tricky because can we ask the LLM to fix specific function instead of sending the entire file? Sure, better chances, but sometimes the time flow is more than just that function. So how will it know? Sometimes the source is actually a static parameter in the class, and you don't give it to it. Sometimes the fix requires you to import some libraries and doesn't know if the libraries are there. So you still need to give all the information. Were we able to minimize the MTTR? I think we did. Better. But still, you need to validate one by one outside of, I mean, chat used to agree with me. Now it's a problem. You should check the recording from the OWASP session. Agree with me there. Again, I want to give credit to one of the automatic remediation tools out there, GitHub. Everyone knows, great in AI. GitHub says that in their solution, they didn't build their own AI. They didn't train it. They didn't fine-tune it. They are prompt engineering it. And what they are saying is that their solution can generate fixes for more than 90% of the vulnerability types. That means that they are smart enough to know what AI cannot do. Not all the tools can do that. And they're saying over 2/3 of those fixes can be merged with little to no edits. Now, I have a lot of technical skeptic folks in the room. So when I read over 2/3, that told me 1 on every 3 fixes may not be usable. And I need to review them one by one. So that doesn't scale. So when we trashed Mob earlier that they're not necessarily the strongest developers, I mean, come on, GitHub is saying that. Let's do a quick break of testing your focus. I'm showing you a piece of code. Anyone knows where this came from? It's a SQL injection. A lot of OWASP folks here. I had once someone identified it. It's from WebGoat. We have a SQL injection here. And basically, I asked ChatGPT to fix it. I did it with 4.0. And I told ChatGPT, can you fix it? And it explains really nicely. Account name can be malicious. The information there, you need to change a SQL query to string to a prepared statement. Looks great, right? Let's see what happens. It took the string, it did add a question mark here, did the set string, and then there is a executes query. Below there is prepared statement. Everything looks good here. But actually, this fix breaks the application. And it will be hard for everyone in the room. I only had once a person that identified what was the problem on this one, and she was a student, a grad student, and that was 3 weeks ago. And this is the problematic code, so let's see if you can figure it out. I'll give you probably 37 seconds because we don't have much time. Here's the account name. Here's the account name. Anyone see a problem here? Problem? Yes? The what? But that was the code originally. You're at the right point. No, you are. That's the problem, but there is no quote. What?
Question mark.
Nope.
Account name.
Account name what?
Is outside.
Is
it because it's supposed to be an int and it says set string?
Nice. I have a hat for you for mob. The guy's right. This is an integer. User ID is an integer. Here, where's user ID? This. How did you know that?
Because there are no single quotes for account name.
Yeah. Otherwise, the string is broken, right? So one person in a room of a lot of technical folks. I'll give you also 2 people in the room of technical. It's hard to find those problems. That's why Chad told me yesterday you need skill security, a senior engineer to do that. Okay, so let's go on another approach. Completely no AI, algorithmic approach, right? Don't worry, we'll get back to the AI later. Basically, the challenge here is that it's very slow to implement. The idea is to take, hey, here's a bad pattern, here's a good pattern, change it, right? We were trying to follow the steps of some really good companies, so Mob, ESLint, Open Rewrite, SameGrep. You can send that to Clint later. Basically, the steps are you need to parse the code to abstract syntax tree. People know what abstract syntax tree is? Let's do it differently. Someone doesn't know, and that's OK. I'll explain. Otherwise, I'm skipping more slides. OK, everyone are shy now. Parse the vulnerability report. We need to do that in any case, right? To read the report of 43,000 findings and figure out what are the problems. Match the abstract syntax tree to the report to know what to fix. And understand the code patterns, and then apply the fix through the abstract syntax tree. So just because everyone asked and everyone were too afraid to say that they don't know what AST is, it's a convenient way to analyze and update code, right? If I'm looking at this code, for example, this is the bad code that we want to fix, and we want to surround it with a DOM purify. How will it look in an abstract syntax tree? We take this line and we break it to the smallest components that we can. Right? If we look at this, so member expression, what we have left from the expression is going to be on the left side. And every step here is broken. So we want to introduce the DOM purify here. Basically what we do, amazing animation, right? Guys, I worked on this like 3 hours, and I shouldn't do that. You introduce the expression here, and again, you have all the steps. So it makes it easy to manipulate the code and introduce the fixes when you work with AST. Now, parsing the vulnerability report is also not that easy. Some of the folks are really fun and they are following the serif format, which sadly serif is not that well defined, so every vendor can write something else there. But some of the vendors use XML of their own or JSON of their own or other versions. And then you need to find the sources, and not all reports have all the data flow in it. So it was challenging, but again, not discouraging you. You should try it in your organization. Basically, the goal was to replace this, and it works. OK, you'll have to believe me. I don't want to demo our solution here. Let's review the goals. Are we able to minimize the MTTR? You would agree that assuming a solution like this exists, that algorithmic knows how to fix everything, it will be deterministic, it will be repeatable. If you like the fix, you will like all fixes the same for the same pattern. If you don't agree with me, we can talk about it later, and I'll buy you a beer until you agree with me. Can you use it to fix at scale? So if the fix is the same every time, you can fix things at scale. You can fix 100 of the issues. You don't need to review one by one. Yes, when you merge code, you have to review code. No question about it. That's by definition. If you don't, you will lose your SOC 2 and whatever other certification you have. No matter if a person commits code or a machine, it needs to be reviewed. But here's the problem. Building such a tool in your organization is going to be very slow to develop. Each code pattern requires manual work. It requires a team of security experts, right? And it's very hard to scale and add more languages, add more issues, add more SaaS providers. Many of you have more than one SaaS tool in your organization. So let's think about the other approach, and let's go back to AI. Generative AI to cut the corners, basically still try to keep the deterministic model. We call it hybrid AI. This is the correct way to use AI, or at least we think so for now. And how does it work? Basically, we still keep the algorithmic approach of building how you fix something, but we cut corners and use AI to help us. In this case, we were looking at null dereferenced exception. It was right after the CrowdStrike fiasco, where at the beginning people thought it was null dereference, and we thought, hey, we will fix the internet. We'll tell everyone we can fix null dereference. It wasn't as easy as we were hoping. But the idea is, this one is pretty simple, right? Command CMD might be null, and then we blow up the application. Fixing it is extremely simple, right? We only do this. Clear to everyone? No reason to use AI here, right? You can do it automatically. But what happens if this is your object? Think about the different things that can be null. Console can be null. This dictionary with the attributes, everything here can be null. Can this be rule-based pattern? Probably, maybe. It will take a month to build something like that with the fanciest SendGraph rules that you want. It will take a lot of time. So we thought, OK, let's go back to everything that we said that failed before. We know what we need to fix it. Let's use that prompt that I mentioned earlier. I have null reference exception in C# code in this line. Surround the line code with if sentence to avoid null reference exception. Seems easy enough for AI to do, right? We didn't ask anything fancy here. And indeed, we look at AI, and it broke everything here to the right way to check the nulls. Being AI, it added some code that no one asked it to because it tried to pacify. But the idea is we can take this, remove everything that we don't want, and put it in the algorithm. So if we go back to the discussions that we had, to all the problems that I mentioned with the non-AI approach, we scope the AI to do a very specific task. We don't ask AI, fix null reference exception. We tell them, we have the problem here. This is exactly what we want to do. If we think about SQL injection, I'm not asking the AI, fix SQL injection for me. I'm telling the AI, on this specific line, find the user input, replace it with a question mark. Then I don't need to figure out all the string concatenation options. So that was the idea. Can we use it to fix at scale? Yes, the results are still deterministic because they're algorithmic based. It's faster to develop the fixes though. And this is where we got stuck before that. So I want to summarize right in time, I think, what I was discussing here, and then we'll get to question, and then you can crucify me for everything that I did here. Basically, we need to remember, by the way, AI, Copilot, which is an amazing tool, let's remember it's a glorious copy-paste machine. That's what it does, right? It looks at your code, find how you do things, and then replicate it to the current code that you're writing. Which means that if you have a lot of vulnerabilities in your code, it will take a lot of vulnerabilities and use that as a pattern to write something else. It always aims to please. So think about the model as an overeager junior employee that blurts out an answer before checking the facts. I didn't write that. Louis Lestrauss said that, and I always butcher his name differently. Sorry, Louis, or Louis, or. GenAI is a great tool, right? But it requires a lot of supervision, and we all know that, and other talks told you about that. The idea is that if you want to get predictable results, if your goal is to fix one thing at a time, that's okay. It's better than sending your developers to Stack Overflow or to ChatGPT and write the code. It does it for you. But still, you need to review it one by one. By the way, I'll put an asterisk on that because we implemented in our pipeline where on every pull request, we scan it with a couple of commercial tools, and then we fix it with our solution. And we had that experimental that I showed at the beginning on, and it was crap. It was shooting out fixes that have don't make any sense, and the developers got tired of it. So we disabled that experimental part, and we only did it. So even with that, even one issue at a time, if you have a lot of bad fixes, developers will lose faith in your solution. Basically, the idea is GenAI is, I think that Copilot was the great name because it's not autopilot, it's Copilot. It's there to help the developers go faster, right? So never trust the results. You need to validate them, and if it's not you, it will break later. And I know someone mentioned zero trust earlier, I think during lunch. The trust by verify and all that, I don't think we can trust but verify later anymore. That's done. That ship has sailed. Things were moving too fast. You cannot trust them. You can verify and then validate, right? It changed. So, any questions? Wow, okay, there are questions. Cool. Yes?
My question is, AI is supposed to learn over time. If you do something, say it is wrong, can it correct? You will not learn it next time you do it.
If you want to train your own AI model, over time it will learn from your corrections, but who is going to correct him?
No, so my point is, say.
Oh, I should repeat the questions, right? Or I'll use the microphone. Does this work? Okay. We'll try this.
Okay. My question is, AI assumption is that it always self-improve over time. You're learning and learning. So it's like anything you learn in life, you learn the mistakes. You learn the mistakes. The question is, maybe not today, but say you see a teacher that to able to learn from your mistakes and get better.
So for the video, I will repeat it. The question is, if AI is supposed to learn all the time, and it does, will we get to the point that AI will be able to do this? It will get better to do this. I do believe so. Will it happen 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Do you have enough data set to train it on all of it?
So the question is, if you learn something like basic mistake happened, then you're not train this to not repeat that error, specific one. So many things. By elimination, you can remove a lot of.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If you have enough data set to train the AI, let's say 1,000 SQL injection in Java in this framework and 1,000 ways to fix it, great. Now move to the next and next and next issue.
I mean, you cannot have a hybrid model that combine AI with something else to compensate.
I think that people are trying. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just repeat the question. It doesn't matter. I'll take it and I'll repeat the question. Okay. I tried. Trying something new here.
So based on your example of 100,000 findings, what kind of success rate does solving classes of vulnerabilities or patterns as you described them, what kind of success rate do you have with that? Like, what are you down to after this?
Yeah. So the question was, if we're looking at mass numbers of findings, like 100,000 findings, what are the success rate of eliminating classes? I guess you mean with no mistakes, right? Look at the 40,000 SQL injection and we haven't cleaned them all at once. I think it's too early. I don't want to be cocky and say, based on the small set of customers that we have, we see, when the fix is right, it's right all the time. When it's not, and I had this situation, we had a fix for overly broad catch. We love that fix. I actually came up with it, which is probably a bad idea. But then the customer didn't like the fix. And myself and the security team were saying, yeah, dev are haters. They always are anti. Till I got on a call with the developer and I saw that we didn't cover the pattern. The day after, 4 hours later, we fixed it. We fixed the fix, and then it just works. So once you get to the point that you cover the patterns, and there is limited amount, it's not endless amount. Once it works all the time. I think the value of using deterministic model is that it's easy to see that the fix is wrong. You're not surprised. That's okay. Okay. Anything else? Yes?
For that XSS example, the AI didn't mention that we should use CSP, am I right? Content Security Policy.
Correct.
With that is one of the issues. Have you ever tried to fine-tune Llama based on the fixes, or give it millions of fixes? And because we have open source projects and all the fixes, have you ever tried to do that?
So the question was, and I'm saying that to the video because I think everyone heard. In the XSS, we didn't use CSP, we used Sanitizer, and yes, and I can explain why. And then did we try to fine-tune Llama with millions of...
We have open source projects, and all the fixes are open source.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to, there are millions of fixes, try to fine-tune...
So did we try to fine-tune Code Llama with the millions of fixes that we have in GitHub, right? In the open source projects. GitHub tried. Didn't work for them. Why? Because I guess because you need to classify all of them. Does it work? Is the fix properly done? And you need to feed it properly. I don't know. I don't work in GitHub. We didn't try it. They decided to move away and not fine-tune, but instead they do prompt engineering.
I see. And in general, I believe that for easy, small fixes, we can use GenAI. But there are some complex fixes that, for example, you change the cryptography algorithm in one file, and then it breaks the whole application because the memory of LLM is small right now. But there will be a day that they will support millions of tokens, and maybe in that day we can use GenAI to write the fix.
So I will answer first the CSP, by the way. We didn't change the CSP because it's in a completely different place, and I think that automatic tools should not do architectural changes, because I wouldn't want any automated tool to make architectural changes in my code. If you're thinking, the second one was about the limitation, right? AI may be good at fixing small things. So that, going back to the discussion I had last night with ChatGPT, I call it, by the way, Elliot, for good reasons, right? And I had discussions with Elliot, and Elliot said that, yes, it should be good in the small things, but you still need to review them. And you need, because things can go wrong. By definition, Sam Altman mentioned, GenAI is non-deterministic, and it's a feature, not a bug.
But this is more about the token size, right? Like imagine what he was talking about, you have like 100 files.
Geminis, you can use, yeah.
You gotta go through all of it, it's not gonna have enough token size to remember all of that.
I think that we are looking to test Gemini now, so everything that I said now, maybe the next time I do a session, it will be different. But then it will be extremely expensive also. And that's the second part, right? You can't solve a problem by introducing a new problem that will be more expensive than the problem that you're trying to solve. At the end, the developer is spending 5 hours, it's what, $1,000? If I need to fix 100,000 findings report and it gets to spending $1 million, yeah, I won't do that. Any other question?
I think the thing is, it's more like you need to have two skills, right? One is prompt engineering skills, where you ask the right question, and what happens if like you put 10 fixes, which is the right fix, and then you're going to put a wrong fix and try to trick the GenAI. Or probably 10 are right fixes, but 100 people are going to go and say, this is the right fix. And
you're talking about poisoning. I mean, the question is, if someone is trying to train AI with wrong fixes, how can the developers later figure out? I think that when you get to that point, you can't use you can't use ChatGPT for that. You need to use dedicated tools that someone is vetting the input for that. You had another question?
Well, I showed your slides to ChatGPT because now, well, he said in his defense he wasn't fine-tuned for security.
It wasn't fine-tuned for security? Since yesterday they changed the answer? Okay. Oh, by the way, we do have a little bit of time, so I will show you a trick for JSON, just for you to know. The problem with if you want to work with it automatically, naturally you want JSON to use. You want to use JSON, and it doesn't recognize the spaces or tabs or all that. So the trick that we found basically was we asked it to add a pipe symbol at the beginning of the line. And because it's very descriptive, it was able to do that. And then all we needed to do after, we got the answers. It didn't change spaces, it didn't change tabs, it didn't do anything. That worked for us. And all we needed to do is write this script after. So that was a cool trick on if you want to automate the results of AI, with JSON, that works. Okay? That's it.